It was August of 1969. It was the end of some flight operations, and Lieutenant Commander George Francis Talken was coming back to the USS Kitty Hawk. About 12 miles out from the ship, radar contact and radio contact was lost. Hasty search, of course, revealed nothing positive. As the daylight came back from that night operation, they went back again, and they pulled up some of the wreckage of the plane. There was no sign of Lieutenant Commander Talken. And so the letters were written, messages sent home, and that's pretty much it. The end, right? You guys know that that's not the end. I'm standing up here in front of you all. And you all are sitting here today on Memorial Day because writing a letter is not the end. It is the beginning of a lifelong journey for many families when a member has ceased to come home, at least in physical form. We sit today amongst many who gave the ultimate sacrifice. I will share another bit of my story as we sit in this space on this hallowed ground. It was August of '69. The letter from the commander of the USS Kitty Hawk made it clear to my mother that in the wreckage that was found, George went down with the vessel. He was not recovered. And at that point in time, in '69, he was labeled KIA BNR. Of course, that means killed in action, body not recovered. My mom is flying the POW MIA flag. That letter is not the end of the story. That year, as the holiday season dawned, my mother wrote and worked with the Navy liaison officer, casualty liaison officer, and had a package sent to Hanoi to the prisoner of war camps. The following year, we were back in Virginia, having left the billet in Florida. My mother once again wrote, this time not to the family liaison officer, because after all, she didn't have one anymore. It was a year later. The letter had been written. But she wrote again. She said, I don't have a family liaison officer anymore, but with the Navy's permission, I would like to send a package again to my husband, care of the Hanoi POW camp. We sit on this ground, and there may have been a letter home. There may not have been a letter home. But what we know is that there was somebody at home wondering what had happened. In that age of no cell phones, no Twitter feeds, no Facebook posts, life unfolded in slow motion, and understanding of what had passed and what had happened came slower. And so the families wondered, of the Civil War soldiers buried here at Fredericksburg National Cemetery, the majority of which we have no name for. We don't know who they are. We don't know whose remains are in most of these sites. So you can well imagine at home, 150 years ago, there are many families that wondered what had happened. Did my soldier not come home because he wasn't able? Did something happen? And maybe he doesn't know where we are, or maybe he's still out there and he'll be back, right? And time would tell that he wouldn't come back, that there would be an empty chair at the table for years and years. That uncertainty is a guiding force for many families. And that uncertainty starts with the day you take the oath of office and become inducted as a service member in the uniformed services of the United States of America. The uncertainty about each day of service and whether or not that service will bring you home or not. It's an uncertainty that on some level we just kind of learn to live with, right? And yet, when the ultimate questions come from that uncertainty, what happened? Why did it happen? Will I ever know what really happened? It's hard. When a member of the United States military uniformed services serves, the entire family serves. Yes? The entire family serves. So when we remember Memorial Day, we think ultimately of those who died in service. And I think that part of the message today is that there are those who live in service. And we think of those who live in service as those members who took the oath. And we need to remember that those who serve are those who are the family members and the loved ones of those who took the oath. Because we all serve. It was 1969. I was too young to remember my father. My sister, still a year older than me, really doesn't remember him either. As we got older and we got to hear stories about my dad, turns out, apparently, I got a little bit of a wild streak. But I come by it honestly. Apparently, I get that from my dad. Because he wasn't only a Navy pilot, one of those crazy people who flies planes on and off a football field in the middle of the rocking ocean. What is up with that? But he was a test pilot, and he instructed other pilots to fly as well. So to all of the National Park Service people that I've worked with through the years and all the community members, just remember, it's not my fault, it's my dad's fault. Okay. So I don't remember my father, and my sister doesn't remember my father. My brother remembers my father, at least a little bit. He thinks he does. And as we started to hear stories about my dad, and we'd every once in a while get a email from somebody, or we'd find a post on the virtual wall that would talk about my father. My sister sent me an email one time and she said, you know, I really wish I knew him. He sounded like a really cool guy. There's some uncertainty about how we would have been as a family. On some level, I guess we get to paint our picture to decide what it is, who we are, and how we would have been. We don't know what happened with the families of those who served and are interned here at Fredericksburg National Cemetery. We do know that there were some lives that went on, and that there was uncertainty in those lives as they went on. We do know that there was a sense of loss, and that there was some questioning about what happened. And even in some of the amazing letters that we have from service members, some of whom served right here on Marie's Heights, some amazing stuff. If you have not had the opportunity to get into that first layer correspondence of some of the members who served here in the Fredericksburg area, it's pretty amazing. And so we remember. That's what historians do, right, Greg? There are storytellers, and they go back and they remember the stories. Because ultimately, they're really important. And for me and my family, those stories help to say who we are. And help to tell me about my dad, and that my crazy streak comes natural. Good to know. My mom said, you know, I still fly the POW and the MIA flag. Yes, Mom, I know. And what's written on that flag? What is on the logo of the POW MIA flag? Somebody shout it out. I know somebody out here knows it. Come on, loud. I got to be able to hear it up here.
Never forget.
That's right. It is, you are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. In the midst of the uncertainty of those who are lost, in this hallowed ground, those that are unnamed, we can still say, you are not forgotten. As you take the time to be here today, and each time you're in a national cemetery, amongst those who has served, and we know what that means now, it's not just the uniformed member. You can be holding in your heart and in your head, you are not forgotten.